Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here, back with another guide for The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This time I'm going to show you how to get through the Ice Palace on the Game Boy Advance version of the game. The Ice Palace in the GBA version is different than the Super Nintendo version in a couple of key locations, a couple of key rooms, and I'll talk about that when we get there, but my Ice Palace guide for the SNES version really will not work for you on the Game Boy Advance version. And luckily the GBA version, alongside Four Swords, has been made available on the Nintendo Switch Online service, plus expansion pack, whatever. Okay, so the first thing you will need is the Fire Rod, and then you will also need the Hook Shot. So the Hook Shot can be obtained in the Swamp Palace, which is level 2 in the Dark World. And then the Fire Rod is available in level 3 in the Dark World, which is Skull Wood. So you need these two key items in order to even get through the dungeon on Game Boy Advance. On the SNES version, you don't need the Hook Shot. There's ways around it, but those ways do not work on the GBA version. If you'd like, you can also go get the Bombos Medallion. The Bombos Medallion can be obtained by going to the Dark World and then going just south of Link's house, and then just go all the way south and then all the way west, and eventually you will find a sort of like cropping or outcropping of pegs. If you go on the other side of that and warp back to the Light World, to be on a cliff, and then you just go one more screen to the west into the desert from there, and that is how you get to the pedestal that gives you the Bombos Medallion. Bombos just makes the boss easier, but you do not need it. I also recommend getting the Half Magic upgrade. You get that from near the blacksmith's house in Kakariko Village. You just need the hammer and the magic powder, and then you fall into a well near the blacksmith's house, and then sprinkle powder onto this weird green fountain, and then a bat comes out and curses you with half magic. So those are more or less the prerequisites to get into the Ice Palace. So let's start actually playing the game. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to use our trusty flute, and we are going to warp to location number 8, which is near Lake Hylia, down in the southeast corner of the map. So we're going to warp here, and then we're going to go one screen to the west, and then we're going to jump into Lake Hylia, and we are going to begin swimming to the northwest. And then we're going to come up on this ladder, and then we're going to lift up this rock. Now, one thing that I do want to show you before we actually get into the dungeon is if you were to come in here and dump a lot of rupees into this gigantic fairy fountain, you can upgrade your arrow and bomb capacities. You need a ton of rupees to get all the way. It's 70 arrows and I believe 50 bombs. I never do it, but the thing that I really want to show you in here is the crack in this wall right here. If you were to bomb this crack, it would reveal a room with 4 fairies in it, so you can go ahead and catch these with your bug catching net and, you know, have a way to revive yourself. So really, really handy. This dungeon is very difficult, so if you're new to Zelda or you're just having a tough time, go ahead and fill your bottles up with fairies. To actually enter the dungeon, you want to lift up this rock and then go into the dungeon. You will need, of course, I should have mentioned this at the start, but you will need the Titan's Mitt from level 4, which is Skull Woods. So you go 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is Ice Palace. Okay, this first room, we are going to take out the Fire Rod, and then there is one of these icicle dudes. These guys can only be melted with the Fire Rod, so the game has a hard check right at the start. The bottom jellyfish in this room holds a key, so go ahead and kill that, and then go downstairs. In this room, there is a switch right here. This is a floor tile. If you just bonk into the wall, you'll jump over the Zol, I believe they're called, and then you won't have to worry about it, but just hit that floor switch, and then come on into this room. We're going to push this brick to the right and then enter the south room. I'm going to skip the dungeon map and compass, but one of them is in here. Just kill all the penguin dudes, and you'll get it, but you can just leave the room, push the brick to the north, hover over the tile, and then go into this room. And then once in here, you don't have to kill anything, but you need to get this pot up and then hit the floor switch to open it back up. And then we're going to go back across this tile, push the brick to the left, and then this is actually our real destination here. So we're going to hit this switch with our sword, and then we're going to plant a bomb and then get to the other side. And then the explosion triggers the crystal switch, and then we can now place a bomb here on this cracked floor and then drop down. All right, in this room are a couple of Stalfos Knights. So the way to kill these is to hit them once with your sword. They sort of crumble to the ground. Then you want to plant a bomb on the bones, and then they will actually die. Luckily, the room does give you a couple of bombs. Okay, so in this next room, there's a moving floor, which can be quite perilous, but this second jellyfish here holds a key, so go ahead and grab that. We're going to leave the crystal switch for now, and then we're going to go into this south room. There is a pole of fire rotating around the room. Come to this south pot, hit the switch to open the door, and then quickly snake around it. You can bonk into the wall over the pit if you like, but you want to very quickly avoid that pole of fire, and then go downstairs. Okay, so once downstairs, we have a few of these penguin dudes. If you're quick, you can actually slide on the ice while facing down and charging your sword, and then you can actually kill them all because Link continues to move. But once you kill all of them, just go into the next room to the north, but do not move because there's this giant trap that comes sliding down. So, in the SNES version, you can just go left and then basically go around this ice skating rink, go down a set of stairs, and then fall into a pit, and then you'll be like right outside of one of the final rooms of the dungeon. And then you just got to kind of like navigate around that section. That no longer works in the Game Boy Advance version because a door there has been changed from a small key to the big key. So you can't even skip half the dungeon anymore. You've got to do the whole thing basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this trap go back down, and then we're going to go around it, and then we're going to come into this room. If you're running low on hearts, there is one in that pot right there. So we're going to deliberately fall down here, and then you want to take out your hook shot for the next room. All right, so we're going to go east, and then you just want to kill all these jellyfish as quickly as you can, and then eventually get yourself to the other side. Just like that, and then go to the south. We have two traps here, so just sort of skate around them. That is easier said than done. All right, and then in this room, we are going to just go over to this pot. We'll worry about the switch underneath it later, but you want to go back up the stairs and into this room. Now, there are a couple of Stalfos Knights in this room, but I am running a little low on bombs. Actually, I should be okay. All right, go ahead and kill that one, and then that should hopefully drop a bomb. It usually does. Yep, great. Okay, and then we are going to take out our magic hammer, knock down these laughing pegs, and I'm going to show you a trick. If you ever encounter a pinwheel, take out your magic powder, and you can turn it into a fairy. You got to be a little quick, though, but the important thing there is the small key. All right, so we're going to take out our, the magic hammer again, and then the bombs one more time, because there's another Stalfos Knight on the other side of this. Okay. And we're not even going to bother with that chest, but oh, wow, 4 bomb drop. You want to hold R, since it's the Game Boy Advance version. If you're playing the SNES version, this guide is going to stop working for you momentarily, but you want to hold R to pull the tongue out of that statue, and that is what opens this door. And then we're going to come here, we're going to go up this staircase, and this is going to lead us to the big key. There you go. Okay, so now that we have the big key, we're going to go back down the stairs, and then pull the tongue out again. And then go through here. And now it's time for that pot that I pointed out before, so go ahead and take out your hook shot one more time. Kill this jellyfish. And then we use this chest to get back over. Okay, so we're going to go through this door, and then we're back in the big trap room. So now what we can do is we can go to the west side, and then the best way around these ice skating rinks is actually to slash your sword. It helps you reset your momentum. You want to wait for the fire pole to go around one more time, and then you're going to run into this staircase. And then this whole section is a big cracked floor, but only one of them is actually cracked. So go ahead and place a bomb just about there, and then we're going to drop down into this pit, and that's going to put us right in front of the big chest. So go ahead and open that for the blue mail. And then we're just going to push these blocks, and then we're going to go into a room that has been changed in the Game Boy Advance version. Okay, I'm going to kill this guy just to talk here for a moment. So in the SNES version, this room looks really different. This is a pit just surrounded by white bricks, and the crystal switch floor tiles, the red and blue floor tiles, are in a different arrangement. They basically did this so you can no longer use the red cane to skip most of the dungeon. They now absolutely demand that you do it their way. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to ignore that big key door for now, and then we're going to come in here, and we're just going to grab this small key, and then we're going to go to this pot in the northeast here, hit the floor switch, and then come back down. Watch out for the bad fairy if you can avoid it. Great, we're going to come back in here, and now we're going to open up this door. And then there will be a Stalfos Knight that drops. We can just ignore him. Use one of our small keys to go downstairs. There's a bad fairy here, or an anti-fairy, so go ahead and just turn that into a regular fairy. Then we're going to come in here, and this room has also been drastically changed. In the SNES version, there's just a pot here with a switch, and the idea is that you drop a white brick from upstairs down here, and then you place it onto the floor switch to keep the door open. Or if you have the red cane and you do the dungeons out of order, you can just use the red cane to drop a brick and move on. You don't have to do the whole puzzle, but again, on the Game Boy Advance version, you have to do the puzzle. So using that second small key that we picked up, we can then open this room and then hit this crystal switch to drop the blue pegs and raise the red pegs. Now we're just tracing our steps and going back into the upstairs room. Keep avoiding all this. And now we are locked in this position. So now basically what we have to do is we just have to get back to this room and do a loop around the dungeon. I don't really understand why they decided to change this. This puzzle was never that interesting. It literally just makes you walk around the dungeon and see the rooms. That's all it's doing. Okay, so again, little ice skating rink. What I recommend doing in this room is just holding a direction for a second and then just letting it go, and Link will slide in that direction. You don't want to get too crazy with anything. So we're going to lift up this pot, grab this small key, and then continue on upstairs. Okay, and then there is one of those icicle dudes over there. We're going to very quickly just walk around him. And then where we are right now is actually this big room. If you look in the top right corner of the map on the 4th floor basement level, you see Link blinking there in the big tall rectangle room. Where we dropped earlier in that room with the collapsing floor was actually the top section of this room. So we're just now at the bottom section of this room. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lift up this pot for this floor switch, and then we're going to go through the door that just opened, and then we're just going to drop into this pit. This room should look familiar to you because this room is above the big chest. So there you go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to lift up this big square and then drop down, and now we're on the other side of these laughing pegs. So again, the puzzle just makes you run around and do things a little bit differently. So we're going to lift up those pots and then pull back this statue, push it over here, and we're going to take out the magic hammer, lift up this big tile, and then this goes to the boss room. So if you have the Bombos medallion, go ahead and equip that, and then as soon as you drop down, just hit the Bombos medallion and it will melt the boss's ice cube prison, and then it releases these 3 big snowballs. The snowballs are called Cold Stare, and Cold Stare is the actual boss. So similar to the land molas in the Desert Palace, which was the second Light World dungeon, it's 3 enemies around the, just, going around the room like scrubbing bubbles. I probably sound so old referring to scrubbing bubbles, but anyway, they just go around the room. They have really high poise, so like even though you hit them in a direction, they will not always stop. The Game Boy Advance version, enemies do tend to stop a bit more. They have a bit more hits done, but it's still a really deadly boss, and there's a reason that this dungeon's treasure is the blue tunic, which reduces damage taken. If you do not have the Bombos medallion, the fire rod works just as well. If you do not have the half magic upgrade, you have to have a full magic meter in order to melt the ice prison. Otherwise, you need half of magic meter if you do have the half magic upgrade. All right, so go ahead and drop down, and then we are just going to quickly spam the fire rod onto Cold Stare. Watch out for the snowballs, and then eventually it melts. And then you want to try to keep them together, but they will eventually separate, of course. And then we are just sort of going around the room, trying to hit them. You just saw there, just dealt 3 hearts of damage. They deal a lot of damage, and these snowballs are constantly falling from the ceiling. But after a few hits each, especially with the red sword, they go down, and then you get your heart container, as well as the 5th crystal. And from here on, you just go to Misery Mire. That is your next dungeon, which is in the southwest corner of the map in the Dark World, and it just requires the flute and the Titan's Mitt. You want to warp to point 6, I believe. It's the one in the southwest corner in the desert, and there's a rock to lift up. But that's the walkthrough for the Ice Palace. I hope this has been helpful to you. Again, the Game Boy Advance version changes things around, so that's why I wanted to make this guide. If you're looking for a full walkthrough of The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, I actually do have one for the Game Boy Advance version that I believe I recorded earlier this year. Did that using a GameCube with a Game Boy player and a Link to the Past cartridge. But I didn't make individual dungeon guides. I just sort of played it to play it and made a walkthrough. But if you need help, I'll link it in the description below. It covers the entire rest of the game, fully narrated and everything. So you're good to go there. But that's it. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to help you out. If you're looking for more guides for The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new guides go live. If you're interested in supporting the channel monetarily, you can do so by becoming a member by clicking the join button below this video. You can also leave a super thanks by clicking the heart icon below this video. Don't forget to follow me. Actually, I'm not on Twitter anymore. Don't forget to join the community Discord. The link for that is in the description below. And as always, I'm SweetJohnnyCage. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.